Hey guys, Law 18, Day 18, the law of sacrifice. Leaders must give up to go up. Warren Bennis and Thomas talk about this in their particular article on Crucibles of Leadership in the Harvard Business Review. A crucible, as they explain it, is an experience that was a trial or a test, a point of deep self-reflection that forced them to question who they were and what mattered to them. I find that sacrifice puts us in a very similar place as a crucible because we figure out when we come to a point of sacrifice who we are and what matters to us after a series of deep self reflection. Here's the bottom line for me when it comes to sacrifice. If I'm not willing to sacrifice, it shows that I'm not willing to show humility. If I'm not willing to sacrifice, it shows that I am not willing to show humility. If I'm not willing to sacrifice, I'm not willing to say that others are more important than myself, which I think is a very crucial part of leadership when it comes to empowering people and adding value to their lives and showing them respect, that might show you respect in return and follow your influence. That I need to be pushing people up. I need to be not at the head of the pack just trucking along and showing them where to go. I also need to be in the pack showing them what to do, and at the back of the pack with the people that really aren't that involved and sitting there and willing to sacrifice maybe my reputation or my standing in some regard so I can show that I really want them to know success and to succeed with me, not succeed as a result of me, or not for me to succeed simply as a result of them, but to show it is collaborative and that comes from sacrifice. I have to be willing to sacrifice. Sacrifice has to be a part of my character. It has to be a part of who I am as a leader. It's said that your talent and your ability will get you somewhere, and I said this earlier, but your character will keep you there. Well, if your character is flavored with sacrifice, when you get there, you're going to stay there. Leadership is this when it comes to sacrifice. You can only get up, you can only go up when you give up. That's that principle. That's this law, the law of sacrifice. When you give up, you can go up. And when you go up, you'll stay there if you remain in a mindset of sacrifice. So there are four principles. There are four principles here that John Maxwell talks about when he says that leadership requires sacrifice. Not that leadership is recommended to have sacrifice, but leadership requires sacrifice. First is this: there is no success without sacrifice. You have to be willing to give something up, because if you're not willing to give something up, and if you're never put in a position where you need to give something up, there's a really good chance that you're falling short of your leadership potential and that you could be doing more. Second, leaders are often asked to give up more than others, as they should be. If you are leading someone somewhere, you cannot ask them to give up more than you are willing to give up yourself. The third is this: you must keep, and I talked about this, you must keep giving up to stay up. Sacrifice is an ongoing process. It is not temporary, it is not seasonal, it is constant. It is something you are always willing to do, and that ties into this. The higher the level of leadership, the more you will be required to sacrifice. The higher you go, the more it's going to cost you. The more people that you're over, the more you need to be willing to humble yourself. We need to be willing to humble ourselves and be willing to sacrifice out of our own personal gain, so that they might see gain and they might see accomplishments in their life, and they might experience a law of addition and feel added value, so that they might in turn be empowered as we as secure leaders empower them, that they might know that we care for them truly because we're willing to sacrifice out of ourselves for them. So my question, my application is this: what aren't you willing to sacrifice? John Maxwell talks about a couple other points of application. I want to hone in on this one. I think it ties in really well with this chapter as well. What aren't you willing to sacrifice? If you can figure out what you aren't willing to sacrifice and why you aren't willing to sacrifice it, you will find out more about yourself in that moment than in almost any other moment, because that moment can serve as a miniature crucible where, as we talked about earlier, you have a point of deep self-reflection, you figure out who you are, and you figure out what matters to you, and more importantly, like Simon Sinek teaches with the golden circle model, you find out why. You find out why it matters to you so much, why you're not willing to sacrifice it, why it's more important to you in some instances than people. So, be willing to sacrifice. Choose to sacrifice. Give up so you may eventually go up and stay up. Let it become something that's habitual, a practice, a discipline in your life, and you will get up. So, see you guys tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this one.